When Sultan Hussein was in power.
So how did the Egyptians get rid of the Turks?
Well, they didn't get, that was, Sultan Hussein was already, in 1805, Muhammad Ali, who was a Turk,
Who was a Turk?
he was ruling Egypt, an Albanian Turk. And he was ruling in Egypt, and he took an army from Egypt, and took an army from Arabia, and went and attacked the Turks.
Okay.
In Anatolia. So he actually liberated Egypt from the Turks in 1805.
But something hung on.
But what hung on is a line of rulers originated from there, but they called themselves Egyptians. So Muhammad Ali he separated from the original Turk Empire.
And who took over power? Who in Egypt took over power? What kind of system took over from in 22?
In 1922 was Sultan. He was just a ruler.
But some changed names from Ottoman Empire.
Well, it wasn't really. The Ottoman empires practically almost became minimum during Muhammad Ali in 1805.
Did this change in 22 affect your family at all?
No.
No.
That was just transition from the Sultan tradition that was used in the Ottoman Empire to a kingdom.
So King Farouk.
Yeah, so I was born in the kingdom. No, I was born before the kingdom. In 1922, the year after I was born, the kingdom was established.
What was the first piece of music you wrote?
It's called Misriya.
Okay, we have that today in the two recordings. But they're different. Why is this not notated, and what's different from one Misriyat to the next?
When I did Misriyat, I wanted it to grow with me. To grow with me for year after year. I didn't want to really freeze it on a piece of paper. See, I know once I write it, I said, this is it. It's going to be like that. But I didn't want it to be just like that. I want it to be like that and breathing with me as I grow with it. So now maybe I'll decide to put it down after it has lived with me.
All right.
Because once you write something, you freeze it, right?
Well, can't
Maybe
you tell the player to interpret?
Interpret what?
You say, this is the way I'm writing it now. This is Mr.
No, that has different. That's got nothing to do with the interpretation.
Why don't you get on the subject where how when he came to America and how he got him, what?
There's just a couple more things I need to know because I'm doing the archive. Did you ever use a copyist, or did you?
No, well, back then there was no. I copied my own music.
Copy your own. And your first concert, I think, was in All Saints Cathedral?
My biggest concert, no, I won 2 competitions in the Opera House. One in
In the Opera House?
Yeah, 1942.
Okay.
I won the competition of the Opera House as a composer.
All right.
I won a competition as a pianist, 1942. But I did not think of myself as taking a profession as a musician.
You were still in agriculture?
I was working in agriculture.
So your first concert was in the Cairo Opera House?
My first competition concert was the Egyptian Opera House in 1942.
And what piece was that?
Huh?
What piece of music?
I played Rachmaninoff for the piano competition. I played Rachmaninoff and some works of Rachmaninoff, and in the composition, I wrote pieces called Preludium, and Muqaddimat.
Related to Perud Sharud?
No. Preludium, forms of interactive forms as an opening material, as an opening pieces of music. Openings, something like that. I don't know where they are.
Yeah, we don't have those.
We don't have those, that I entered the competition with.
Entered the competition. Yeah. So after the Opera House,
so the first piece is 1942 was Muqaddimat and in English would be preludiums, and some, pieces that interacted with each other in different forms. And I won the competition for composition in 1942. And the first piece I wrote down was in 1932, 10 years before.
Well, it's mystery out.
Yeah, but none of that stopped me from being an agricultural engineer. Okay?
Okay, because you entered the University of Cairo as an agricultural engineer. Why?
Yeah, I graduated from high school, from Kubba High School, which is, I have a palace, one of the palaces of King Fuad, King Farouk. King Farouk had a palace in Kubba. Kubba was my high school, and from that high school I could enter either a medical school or agricultural school. And I decided to go into agriculture because already several of my brothers were into, my brother and cousin were in the medical school. So I entered the agricultural school.
So was it during this time at Cairo U that you did some of these early pieces like Prelude, Cherude, Dark and Down?
Yeah, when I was in Cairo University.
Cairo University, and these were played at All Saints Cathedral. And
yeah, I didn't play, All Saints Cathedral was separate, yeah. 1949. I had finished college. I didn't work in college until 1945, and I was working in agriculture from 1940, and got a degree in 1945, but I was already working, and then I continued to work until 1950 as an agriculture. So for 10 years I was working in agriculture.
And when did you come to the United States?
1950, July 1950.
July 1950.
July 1950.
How old were you then?
28. 28 is it? 50? Because, 29 maybe. Because 51 I was, 30?
Where did you land in the United States? Denver?
I landed in Boston.
In Boston, but you didn't you go to Denver for?
Yeah, later on I did, the same year.
So how long did you stay in Boston?
But you're jumping now.
Well, and I ask you,
I jumped her.
Yeah, no, we want to go, how did I come here? That's a different story.
That's the story of how you got here, yeah.
Yeah, how did I get to the United States?
Well, back then, boat or what?
Huh?
Boat or plane back then?
Oh, in the documentation or
Yeah,
the
what made me actually come to the United States?
Well, because you got a job interview, right?
Huh?
Or you
got a scholarship.
Well, I didn't really think of it. I didn't think of taking a career as a music, until one of my compositions was claimed as, they claimed me after that composition as a world composer. In other words,
was that?
it is dark. I wrote, the whole reason I came here was it is dark and damp on the front. And that piece, when I was in agriculture, I was traveling in Central Egypt with another fellow, and I was putting a crew to work on the land in a farm, and I hear the news of the Egyptian army and what's happening in Palestine and all the clash, and all of a sudden that means the Egyptian government is going to call us for soldiers, and war started, and I was totally in a confusion. And I said the war front is inside every one of us, and that's what made me write a composition called It is Dark and Damp on the Front, and the front is inside every human being. I said when this happened, that means every human being in the whole world has a war front inside of themselves. And when I did that, I wrote that piece while I was agricultural engineer, while I was doing my job. And it was friends of me who really took me out from my agriculture and put me in All Saints Cathedral and asked me to come to play that piece. And that piece claimed to be the newspaper, French, English, Arabic, everything, as a world composer, as though I'm already established. As though I have been doing this all my life.
So a lot of people came to see this performance?
Of course, it was full house. Full house several times.
Now, did this influence your coming to the United States?
Yeah.
This concert influenced you coming to the United States?
No, it's not. This conference made Europe wanted me, France wanted me, Italy wanted me.
And the French, and you said the French stole something from you?
No, well, that's later on. They didn't steal anything. I mean, I'm talking about a composer later, can't take. But the whole organization of French music, they wanted me there. I'm a world composer from Egypt. Italy was the one who really wanted me. And maybe England, but England didn't make a proposition to me. United States at that time didn't have much. So my exposure to the United States didn't happen yet. My first exposure was was France, Italy, and England, but no US. It didn't happen to US until April of 1949.
April what?
May 1949, when I repeated the concert.
When you repeated the Darkened Dam. Is this when you met this Mr. Black?
Huh?
This is Mr. Black.
When the cultural attaché came and listened to me, and the thing that made him wonder is that, you see, the hall was full to the rim, and people standing outside. I mean, people were standing outside to listen to me. This is when he said, "I'm Mr. Black. I am Mr. Black, the cultural attaché of the United States Embassy. I like your music. Have you ever thought of going to the United States?" And I said, "No, I didn't think about it." He said, "Come to my office." And he gave me a card, and this is how things started. In other words, he gave me a card and he said, come visit me.
So the United States' cultural attaché was interested in you.
Habib, you need to ask me. Habib, you want to ask me questions?
Well, I'm following along from the last time we did this, and I'm not remembering any some of the stuff. I don't think she's asking the same questions.
Okay. Or I'm not elaborating as much, but that's why I need both videos so I can go back and review.
The first one, you asked them some different questions, and they were sounding very interesting. I'm kind of getting lost here on the ones you're asking.
What do you remember?
Coming to America, and then something about how your whole life changed, something about someone stealing a piece of music from you in France or someplace.
Oh.
Well, first he came to the United States. Before any of that could happen, he had to come to the United States, which was on a scholarship, right?
Okay, so scholarship. Then, after when you came to the United States on a scholarship, then what happened?
Well, he came on 2 scholarships, because I know this part because he flunked his English test.
That's right. You said you flunked. Okay.
So they sent him for TOEFL.
Oh yeah.
Nobody stole anything. I don't think anybody stole any money.
You're talking about...
Watch your foot, mother.
Watch your foot.
Mother. The other. Watch your foot.
My right or left?
You're the one that's sticking out by the camera.
My left?
This one.
Okay. This is when he... Okay. That's later.
Okay. And the guy gave you what's his name? The one that gave you that you said you flunked your English test, and then he gave you something. He said, here's your...
Oh, he said, you have to pass the English test. Well, I couldn't finish. He gave me paper to apply for the competition in the United States. To come to it, they said they have 500 applications and they're going to choose 7.
Okay, and you got chosen for some reason.
I was chosen that because of, he listened to his Darkened Dam on the front, that's why. And then He said in order to go to the United States I have to pass English, but I flunked English, so they give me extra grant to go to Denver, Colorado, to learn English.
Learn English. And how long did that last?
That lasted half a year.
Half a year to learn English?
Yeah. I mean, I went to school. I came in July. Well, not half, no, July, August, September. Yeah, 3.5 months.
3.5 months.
Yeah, 3.5 months.
Okay.
Because after that, I went to Albuquerque.
You went to University of New Mexico in Albuquerque for a music grant, right?
Yeah, for music, yeah.
And then how that go? Okay.
And then I went
Four-year
back
program,
to...
only? Four-year programs?
No. They put me in a special graduate position there. As though I have everything. They put me in a graduate track as though I'm a graduate student because I already have Bachelor of Science from Cairo. But I have to attend all freshman classes. Freshmen, sophomores, seniors, and graduate. I had to attend all the classes from the bottom to up, even though I was in a graduate stand.
Yeah,
That was a very difficult situation. Put you in a graduate school, and then but I don't know, I have to go through freshman to come back to graduate.
So it was 1 or 2 years of studying?
No, there was just 1 year.
And what did you write during this time?
I wrote my first symphony.
Symphony number 1?
And I wrote, my father was having coma, I wrote Coma Dance.
That's when you wrote Coma Dance, okay.
Yeah. And I was invited to Hollywood that year. That year I was invited by Elmer Bernstein.
Who?
Elmer Bernstein.
And is that related to Bruce Springsteen? No.
Leonard.
Huh.
Elmer Bernstein, it was one of the biggest movie writer for music in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
My teacher, Ancona, her name Ancona, she thought I should do music for Hollywood. She sent me to Hollywood. And the guy asked me to stay. I could have been writing in Hollywood back then, but I was kind of an undisciplined guy. I didn't like it when I went to Hollywood. I said, I'm going back to Egypt. And I aggravated my uncle because he wanted me to stay.
So you finished, let's get the time for
So what made you didn't want to, and then you didn't want to stay in Hollywood?
I
You didn't like it or what?
I didn't like the attitudes of people there. But Elmer liked me, and I could have stayed there to write movie music.
Wow. What happened? Why?
Huh? Well, if I did, I wouldn't have you as a son.
How do you know that? Now we could be driving Lamborghinis right now.
I still can go to Hollywood, have you told me to. It's not too far.
It's right now that we can go there tomorrow. 7-hour drive. Alright, so
I went to Hollywood. And I met, that year also I went to the Grand Canyon. And I met a millionaire there who wanted to sponsor me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want him to sponsor me. He said he was going to sponsor. It was the beginning of TV back then, 1950, It was the beginning of TV and everything. And the TV was after me. And this guy wanted to sponsor me and everything. I could have been a star like that. But I wasn't ready, I guess. So I wanted to go back to Egypt.
So you left your first wife and went back to Egypt?
Well, I didn't marry her then.
Oh.
You're talking about my first wife, it's the first time she's talking about her. I went and came back to Tanglewood. I just went for a short period to Egypt. And then I was invited, my scholarship was extended.
By the cultural attaché of the United States?
By the organization of Tanglewood.
So Tanglewood found you when you were in Cairo?
Because when Copeland saw my music, Aaron Copeland, he said, anybody who writes music like that, like It Is Dark and Damn, should be my private student.
Well, how did Copeland see your music?
Okay, when I was in Denver, studying English, first of all, I sent a terrible letter to the attaché, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing here in Denver. I can't even touch the kitchen. It's all push button and I don't know how to cook.